Hello, I'm Paul Briley, and you're listening to Off the Comma. On this podcast, we explore all facets of what it means to feel stuck in life. We talk with people just like us who have found themselves sitting on a comma and not knowing where to go next. We'll unpack the experience, where they felt stuck, what they experienced, and what they learned. My goal is to inspire you by seeing yourself in others and finding possibility for yourself. Let's get into this week's conversation. Welcome back to another episode of Off the Comma, and very excited to be here again for another amazing story and a powerful listening session. I am excited to meet this week's guest. Like so many other guests, Jennifer and I have not met before, so I'm looking forward to getting to know her through her story today. And I'm also very excited because one of the things that I very much would like to see happen more and more with this podcast is that we hear from voices, not just all over my country here in the United States, but all over the world. And Jennifer is going to be doing that with us today. So Jennifer is going to be coming to us from Africa, South Africa specifically, the country of South Africa. And I'm looking forward to hearing, her perspectives and her story and how geography shows up in her story, if it does, if it's part of your story today. So I'm going to stop rambling and I'm going to dive right in. Let's get into you and your story. Let's start with introductions. Jennifer, thank you for coming. Tell us, how would you like to be known? How would you describe yourself as a person?
Thank you so much for having me. And I really love that you start off the podcast with this question. So, how I would like to be known is I would say I would like to be known as a person who leaves a mark with other people in the sense of I see their greatest potential, and because of something I said or did, or just because of my being, they took an action steps towards more freedom, towards
Mm.
more fulfillment, towards more joy, towards living a better life. I really would love to be known as that person.
Nice. I'm looking forward to seeing how that shapes itself in your story today. What else would you like for folks to know by way of introduction, hobbies, work, interests, just anything before we get to know you further in your story that would be important to share?
So I've always been a dancer. I really love dancing, and right now I dance salsa, bachata, kizomba, zouk, and compa. And something else that would be important to the story is I've always been a person I've always been interested in travel. And I grew up in Germany in a very small town. I've always been interested in travel and other cultures, and that will play a big role in my story as well.
Okay, nice. Awesome. Already, I'm kind of self-referencing a little bit. Obviously, the whole point of these stories is for people to be able to hear things that resonate for them and that mean something for them. And already, you had me at travel. Folks who listen on a regular basis know how much I love traveling and exploring and so forth. So I'm looking forward to seeing how that shapes out in your story. And acknowledge you for the dancer in you that you described when you talk about dancing and travel, like I see the thing that they share in common is movement. It seems like that's important for you as well.
Absolutely. I can never be still, or I can never do the same thing all over again or all the time. Like I need to move, I need to create, I need to just be everywhere. And then also my work is I'm a hypnotherapist. So the mind can never stay stagnant. The mind can never stay still because if not, if it does, your life will be either boring or it will take a turn for the worse. So we don't want that.
Mm,
So movement is very, 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 very important to me in any kind of way.
nice. Well, you're definitely speaking to me already. Jennifer, before we get into the five questions here in just a moment, which is where your story will unfold, one of the things I like to do with every guest before we get started is as you think ahead to the next 35, 40 minutes or so of sharing your story with us today, what would be your intention for yourself in telling your story today?
My intention for myself would be to be inspiring and to be authentic and real and to show people that um there's no polished version of anything. Like every person who has gotten to a point where they're at now, they have been through the lows, they've been through the worst of the worst, and they come out better and with more lessons, but they come out of it. So every low is a phase.
So it sounds like that'll be part of what you'll be sharing with us is maybe some of your phases and lulls and ups and downs and so forth. My intention today is to support you and your intention. Obviously, create a space for you to tell your story. And then also that there will be people out there who will see a little bit of themselves in you and your story, and that will make them feel more connected, maybe a little less alone, and in the best of cases, maybe feel inspired or empowered to go out and do something that they've secretly been wanting to do.
Absolutely. That is my biggest hope.
Awesome. Let's dive into the questions. And Jennifer, the first question is, where in your life have you found yourself sitting on a comma?
I would say a big time was when so as I mentioned, I'm from Germany. I was born and raised there in a very small town, and eventually I moved to LA and I studied there and I got a job there. And in my job in LA, I started to become unhappy, become unfulfilled. I was working as the managing editor of 22 newspapers. You would think I got to do many great and amazing things. I got to fly a old World War II fighter plane from like 1942 for free, for nothing, just because I was a reporter or I was a managing editor of this newspaper. And then I got to go to all these premieres from theater plays and all of that. So like it was a great job. But on the other hand, I also had to report on neighbors reporting on their neighbors because they were watering their plants on the wrong
Mm,
day because California had a water crisis. And it was just so like petty for me. I was like, there's other problems in the world and there's other things in the world that we should care about or be concerned about. And it started to nag at me a little bit, and I became unfulfilled in the job.
mm,
And then that led me to really make some bad decisions with guys and alcohol. I'm sure people can relate to that one as well.
mm,
So that was when I was really, really sitting on the comma where I was like, shit, I need to do something to change my life. I need to do something that will really make a difference. And I need to do something that will bring me on a completely different trajectory because I want to be fulfilled. I know that life cannot just be there for me to stay like this and to remain where I am now. So that was when I was
mm,
definitely sitting on the comma.
mm. Well, let me reflect a couple of things back for you. And anytime I reflect, if I misreflect something or misrepresent something, by all means, please correct me. So, first of all, we already see, the travel element showing up in your story. Born in a small town in Germany, moved to LA, like that's a big move and that's a big lifestyle change. It's certainly one of the big stories here in the United States, folks. And then you immersed yourself in an entirely different environment. You've got this big, important job. And yet, as so many people describe on here, as you get into it, there's parts of it that certainly I believe are enjoyable for you, but then there's other parts that are just unfulfilling. And it was that sense of unfulfillment that then kind of started this trajectory of what you described as bad decisions and starting to sit on the comma. What was that like for you at that time? I mean, feel free to share, more parts of the story if you like, but as you were kind of experiencing all of this, what were you experiencing? What were some of the challenges? What were you thinking and feeling at the time?
So at work, it started with like, oh, what am I doing? Why am I doing this? And then also there was a person at work that would feel that, and she would kind of like trying to say that to my bosses. And back then I took it in a negative way. I was like, oh, why is she talking about me? Why is she getting into my
Mm,
business? Why is she saying all of this to my bosses? When I believe now that I've learned more that she was concerned about the company, about my position, who's going to fill it, or is somebody better equipped than I am? So she was talking about me, and that made me feel not good at all. And also, it made me have hate and anger and frustration, and like, why the fuck is she doing that? Like, so that
mm,
was one way that I felt at work. And then another part of me felt also I got frustrated because also I had to fire a bunch of people because there were always cuts here and there. And the newspapers, they were becoming digital at that time. And that was that is a hard transition. That has been a hard transition
hmm
for newspapers to make. And so that was also a sad part. And I was like, what is my future? Like, is my future being in the newspaper industry when I have when everything is being digitalized? How are we going to make money with that? All of that stuff. And then
Mm,
I was also directly underneath the CEO because I was overseeing the department of like the editorial department and the graphic design department. And I was like, well, I don't see myself going higher up in the company either. So there's something missing here. Like I know I have way more potential than what I am experiencing right now, what I can do right now. There was this sense of unfulfillment because I wasn't really fulfilling that potential. And I felt like also that I wanted to travel because when you're from Germany, you grow up having different countries within 5 hour drive, 3 hour drive, 10 hour drive, different, whole different countries with different culture, different food, everything. So I was very used to that. And being in LA, it takes you at least, I think, well, you can drive down to Mexico in 1.5 hours for sure, but that's it.
hmm
That's really it. Other than that, you have to take a flight that's 2 hours, 3 hours, 6 hours. So that was not the greatest travel or a place to travel from. And
hmm
so I would say I was complaining on a very high level. I know that. But at the same time, then that led me into making these really bad decisions where I was choosing people that were putting me into danger,
mm,
in my body into danger, rather than taking care of me and seeing like, hey, what is going on? You have to fix this.
mm. It had to be very challenging. I mean, as you've described, right? Like the industry was going through so much change. You were not even really getting the enjoyment out of the things that you chose to do in that industry, between having to implement layoffs, the dealing with the changes, which had to be hard for everybody who maybe had a traditional point of view on news. And one thing you didn't mention that I suspect was also a part of it is this was also the period of like consolidations and all the media companies being purchased by people with other intentions and goals and so forth. So not just digitizing the news, but also the news becoming less and less neutral and objective. Did that play a part in
We
it?
were unfortunately like that was a very big thing that our boss had said, I will never be bought. So at that time, that
Okay.
wasn't one of our problems, which I highly respect and which was very good.
Mm, okay. Thank you for that clarification. And yet, back to you though. Like the point is this deep sense of unfulfillment, and it almost seemed like it was kind of like pushing you in a direction to just try to seek and find some kind of satisfaction or some kind of like thrill. You mention, as so many people do, making decisions that put you in harm's way or with the wrong people or what have you. I mean, for you, I should ask you and not make my own assumptions. What was driving you in that direction?
That's a great question. I think like you said, I wanted to have thrill and excitement and adventure in my life because I didn't have that. Because I was in a 9 to 5, I was going to work every day, I was partying on the weekends, and I was just looking for something that made me feel alive, something that
Mm,
was different, something that was out of the ordinary, something that was giving me a thrill to, yeah, to just make me feel alive.
mm. And so, that started to create negative circumstances in your world. So all of this kind of culminates into this large comma that you were sitting on. Let me ask the second question, and then you can continue to go back and expand on the story or go forward wherever you want to go with it. As you look back at this comma that you were sitting on, what did it create for you?
It created the best opportunity of my life.
Mm,
And I'm getting quite emotional because if I had not been on that comma, I would not be where I am. And I would have not traveled as much. I would have not started my own business and so many more things. Like it created the greatest opportunity of my life.
mm. You- What emotion are you feeling right now? You said that's bringing up some things for
Gratitude,
you.
absolute gratitude.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, share more with us about what this created, because clearly it was very powerful.
Yeah. So I had a friend back then, and I was surrounded. I am still surrounded by great people, but also back then I was surrounded still. Even though I make bad decisions with bad people, at the same time I had great people in my life. So there was this one friend. She had introduced me to the book The Secret, and into spirituality and into what it means to create your own life. And that same friend told me, Jenny, you need to see my hypnotherapist. You are at a bad situation right now and you are getting worse and worse. So please go ahead and see my hypnotherapist. And I was like, ooh, okay, I don't know what that is, but I will just try and I will see what happens. And so I went to the hypnotherapist and I was in a chair. I was lying back, and then she started the hypnosis. And hypnosis is simply a state of relaxation, right? So she took me
Hmm.
into relaxation. And then I remember the visualization that she gave me was that I should put all of my bad, negative emotions and things and feelings and beliefs into a hot air balloon and let it fly off.
Mm.
That was what I remembered. I think she did a lot more, but that was the one thing that I remembered. And so I did. And then I went home. And I went to bed, and the next day I woke up at 4 or 5 in the morning, earlier than usual. And in my head, my brain had completely made the decision to quit my job and travel the world. There was no more going back. Absolutely not. So that was done. And then, or actually, it was the decision was to go to Paris for 6 months. And then eventually, after 2 years or so, come back to LA. But then I called my friend and I was like,
Mm.
Bibi, I'm making this crazy decision right now. I want to go to Paris for 6 months and I want to travel and na na na. And then my friend BB said, Jenny, why just Paris? Why not the whole world? Like you can travel the whole entire world now. The whole world is open to you. And I was like, wow, you are so right, and I shall do that.
Mm.
And so within 2 weeks, I had told my bosses about that I would quit my job within 6 months and I would bring them a person who will replace me so that I don't have to worry. And then I will be off on my own traveling while working online and trying to figure out a way on how to do that.
Mm. First of all, I love just the emotion and the power behind it. Like as soon as you started talking about where this went, your energy shifted. I mean, you completely bubbled up. It's awesome. Um, what you make it sound like it was kind of like an overnight sort of thing. Like what
It
made
was.
okay. What made travel the thing? Was there something already kind of in place there before, or was that just like, well, I guess I'm going?
It was my love for traveling and then seeing other people online. Like they were travel blogging, they were working online, they were having freedom. And I was like, I want to live that life. But it wasn't like the decision was made that day, that night. It wasn't like
Mm,
before I had seen, on social media, you always see something, you save something, you read something, and then you keep on going. No, no, no. There was no decision like that. The decision was made that night after that one
mm.
hypnosis session, and that was crazy.
How did you feel at the time? I mean, obviously, it's exciting to tell the story here in retrospect, but having just awakened at 4 o'clock and saying, "Oh shit, I guess this is what I'm doing." Like, did that feel like for you?
It felt certain, and I had been looking for certainty of what to do. And it felt like this is the right thing. And at the same time, it felt scary as hell because I had no idea on how I would make that happen. I had no idea on what I was going to do. I had no idea about what was to come.
Mm-hmm.
It was scary, but at the same time, it was exciting and thrilling, and it made me feel alive again.
Mm. And you had a support system, or you've named at least one person, right, who was willing to kind of help facilitate you forward, right? Where did it go next?
Next, it went to me saving only $4,000 and thinking I could travel the world for quite a while, but and having to build an online business within a few months. Started to I started to work as a virtual assistant for another hypnotherapist. I started to work as a translator. I started doing social media. I started writing a travel blog. I started filming documentaries. And then eventually that led into burnouts. And that led
Mm,
into me being so sick that I could not work anymore. And that burnout that I had and being sick caused me to be who I am today because that's when I was like, okay, I have to focus on one thing, and that is hypnosis. And I will become a
mm,
hypnotherapist, and everything else can can just move because I was traveling so much. Imagine I was in a different country every week, every other week, sometimes every month, and it was the traveling, it was the working, it was the finding clients, getting money, like all of that just
mhm. Well, and if I can add to that,
crazy.
right, what I think might also help for folks who are listening is, okay, so you have quit your job, and basically walked away from what everybody I'm doing. Well, we have video, air quotes, right? For folks who aren't watching the video, like what people call security and stability, right? It was stability. You walked away from that. And it's not just burnout from the things that you were doing to try to generate work and income and so forth. Like you said, you were in a different place every week, every month. And to some folks, that sounds glamorous. And trust me, it is. If that's the thing that you want to do, like it doesn't matter what comes with it. But it's the logistics, right? It's the you've got to plan and book and make reservations for the places. You've got to figure out how you're getting from one place to the next. You've got to figure out, how to adapt to the local culture and often different languages and so forth. There's the having your own systems in place for how you pack and travel and what you need and what things you'll buy locally. And so you are creating a new job for yourself, multiple jobs, multipreneurialship, while moving basically every week and not doing that from a stable, consistent kind of home base. So that's two lifestyles overlapped. No wonder you got to a point of burnout.
Yeah.
Anything else you would add there?
I would also, once again, I would say this is something that has led me into what I do today, which I'm very, very grateful for and very, very happy with. So every comma is a stepping stone into probably one of the greatest opportunities of your life.
Mm. Well, I wanted to dig more into that. Now, you mentioned when you were on the comma, you were referred to a hypnotherapist, and of course, that was a powerful and moving experience. While you were acting on kind of the revelation from that event, you said you were doing sort of some home-based businesses to support some hypnotherapy businesses. And then ultimately it led you into focusing on one thing, hypnotherapy. What else would you say? Like, how did it come to that choice among all the possible choices?
So I was, so as I was working for the hypnotherapist as a virtual assistant, she introduced me to inner child work, which really helped me better the relationship with my mom. So it had another big impact. Also, one session, a single session only, like it had a really, really big impact on my life. And then eventually, I also had a coach who was introducing me to past life regression, what my purpose is in life, like coming down to earth, and just different things and different modalities. And I was like so fascinated by it, and it helped me so much, and it helped me gain so much certainty in life, so much certainty in what I want to do, so much certainty in how I'm here to help people, how I want to help people, how I want to support people through their lives. And it just grabbed me because one session could change someone's life as it had mine. And I was like,
Mm,
this is what I want to do because in 60 minutes, your life can change completely. And that is what I found the beauty of hypnotherapy was. And that's why I decided to study it myself and to pursue it myself and to really, really get into it, get behind it, even teach it nowadays. Like it's been a beautiful journey.
mm. It also seems like, and tell me if I'm wrong here, like you mentioned earlier, um, that you were looking for certainty, right? I think all of
Hmm.
us have a certain type of seeking within us that we're looking for different things. Often we're looking for certain things, right? It seems like in this choice, there was a certainty of direction or a certainty of sense of purpose. I don't know. It's just a sense. You say more about that.
Yeah, so I was also thinking, I was like, do I want to keep on being a virtual assistant or executive assistant, doing social media, doing the travel blog, doing the documentaries? And none of that was like, yes, that's it. But with
Mm,
hypnotherapy, it was like, yes, that's it, because it has helped me so much, because it has led me on the path where I'm at now. So that was the certainty that I needed. Everything else was more of a, yeah, I like it. It's fun. It's cool. I love doing it. But at the same time, it was not like, yes, this is my thing. This is what changes people's lives. This is what makes me come alive, really. It was
mhm.
nice. It was great. But yeah, that was hypnotherapy was where everything came together. Everything came.
Yeah. Well, and that's great too, because I know there's a lot of folks, and by a lot of folks, I mean myself, who are very much explorers and travelers and adventurers and so forth, and I recognize that that's also a big part of how I'm wired, right? That is just what I do. That is the thing that's certain, is the constant exploration, and yet there's also this other sense in me that's always kind of looking for what's the thing or what's the certainty or whatever. And I know other people too who are kind of like feel like they're lost because they never land on certainty. The irony for myself, speaking specifically for myself, is that I think if I ever found that, then I would get bored with it very quickly, because it's the exploration that's more the thing than the certainty. But how awesome it is, though, for you to have found that kind of clarity and that sense of purpose and that certainty that so many people do look for.
Yeah, and I think also when we found that in one part of our lives, right, the certainty, like with a partner or with a location or with a job, then you can explore in other areas of your life. You don't have to be
Hmm.
uncertain in every area of your life. I think that would be very stressful for people sometimes as well. At least
Right.
for me, that would be. So to have certainty in something, because the travel got too uncertain. My travels got too uncertain. So I was like, let me just have something that is certain. And so I
Mm.
think you can play with that. Maybe, eventually I'm gonna play with my job again, and but then have certainty in a place where I'm at rather than exploring and then just switch that. That can also be a choice.
Yeah, well, and I hear you describing, kind of going with the flow of it and letting whatever it is that pulls or calls you in the moment pull or call you, and then knowing that you can flex or pivot or whatever the word of the day is, that you can always kind of respond and change your circumstances at whatever point you feel called to.
Exactly.
That's a good bridge to our third question. Jennifer, what have you learned about yourself as a result of sitting on this comma?
Where do I start? There's so many things. I have learned about myself that I am very resilient, and that if I really want something, I will make it happen. I will
Mm,
move heaven and earth to make it happen. And I've also learned about myself that I need fulfillment, that I need something that is real in my soul, that feels right, that feels good for me, that I need that feeling of satisfaction. I've learned about myself that um, while I love exploring, while I love traveling, what I have come to love more is the sense of it's a sense of home, a home within myself, but also a home with people and a community now in this phase of my life. Rather than exploring and traveling on my outside, I now want to settle. And now I love that. And I love exploring in a sense of dance. I love exploring in a sense of my work. But I've come to one place to settle and no more so much explore when it comes to traveling. I will
mm,
still travel all the time, but it's not gonna be every month or every 2 or 3 months anymore. It's just gonna be with a home base, and then I can travel from there.
hmm. Well, and I think you kind of answered the question I was curious about, because specifically when you said, um, I need fulfillment and satisfaction, maybe I'll still ask the question in case there's something else you would add to it, is like, how do you know? What is it? It sounds like fulfillment and satisfaction come from a lot of different places. How do you identify it? How do you know that you've captured it?
For me, it's the feeling of I don't regret anything that I've done, even though I've
Mm.
made mistakes and stuff. I don't regret anything. If I died tomorrow, I would be happy. I would say I lived a full life. I've done everything that I wanted to do, and send me home. I'm good. There's nothing that I regret that I haven't done. So the feeling of fulfillment and satisfaction for me comes when I say I want to do this and then I actually do it.
Mm.
So to not have any regrets or anything that I feel like, oh, I should have done, or I should have gone there, or I should have, no, 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 no.
I love that. Like, I really appreciate that because I think that really aligns as a fellow traveler or explorer in life, right? That aligns with kind of where I think I've landed as well, right? As I look back at all this stuff, even some of the stupid shit that I've done, and I'm like, nope, still glad I did it, right? Maybe not proud of it, but don't regret doing it. And also like I'll joke with friends too because I like to walk a lot and when I land in a different place or arrive in a different place, I should say, like my favorite thing is to be in the center of whatever constitutes that place, city, town, village, whatever, and just walk the streets, observe the people, snack and eat and that sort of thing. And anyway, the whole point being at some point I'll be old enough that I may not be able to do that anymore. And I don't want to be sitting or standing someplace saying, man, I wish I could walk some more. Like I want to be able to say, I walked a lot of fucking miles on this planet, right? Let's come back to you. What has changed for you as a result of sitting on this comma?
What has changed for me is my entire life.
Mm,
I have not moved back to LA. I have now settled in South Africa. I have found the country that I love so much. I have seen the world and I've gained so many experiences with that, good and bad and ugly and beautiful. And I've seen the most beautiful places, and I'm very, very grateful for my experiences. And that has changed me, and that has made me a person who I would say has good advice and some wisdom for her age because
mm,
I've been through some shit.
mm,
And it has changed me in ways of where I've gotten to meet the most amazing people, and I've gotten to read people well, because when you travel, you need to read people. If they speak a different language than you, then you better read people and you read their energies and you really get to know them and get a feel for them. So I've improved that. So that has changed for me a lot. And I have more fulfillment now than I had back then. And like I said, there's no regret. So that has also changed for me.
mm. And you're okay. I have two questions, and they're both like I'm super curious about both. Let me go this direction first. You've shared a little bit about the things you've taken from your travels. Um, as you look at kind of the arc of your journey over these last number of years and of all the places you've been, what else would you say your travels have done for you? Like, how have your travels shaped you?
They've made me a very accepting and tolerant and non-judgmental person, and a very loving person and a very appreciative person. So I can get along with anyone from anywhere. I will find common grounds. I will have a conversation with everyone. And that gives me confidence too, right?
Mm,
So if I walk into any room, I can have a conversation with anyone that I want to and not feel out of place or uh, better or worse or whatever, comparing myself to a person. No, I can actually connect on a human level. I can connect with everyone. And that I think is a strength that
mm.
makes me worth.
Absolutely. What is it they say? There's no better cure. It's a specific quote from a specific author, and I just went blank on it. But like travel, something about travel curing ignorance and travel curing, um, like hate and apathy or something like that. But
I
um,
have that. Maybe it's a tattoo I have on my body. So
oh,
that one says, travel may not prevent bigotry, or a bigotry or hatred, but by demonstrating that all people laugh, cry, hope, and fear, we may introduce the idea that we're the same. By
I
Maya
love that.
Angelou, similar to that.
I love that. I love that. And what I was going to say is no, I mean you said it better. You said it best. The travel, the understanding of people, the understanding of yourself, and then it increasing confidence. It just I would imagine there's very few rooms you could go into anymore where you wouldn't already be comfortable or be able to get comfortable very quickly.
Absolutely.
The second question I was going to ask you earlier is okay. So, meanwhile, you're practicing hypnotherapy. Now, this is truly just like a tactical question. Are you doing that in person, virtual, combination? Like, how has your hypnotherapy kind of career now carried through and played with your travels? How do those two things work together?
So I needed a job that would allow me to work from anywhere, right? So I was like, okay, I need to do hypnosis online. And fortunately, like I said, hypnotherapy is only relaxation. So it allows me to work online from anywhere with a good Wi-Fi connection, which sometimes can be challenging, but
Hmm.
it is what it is. But I do work 90% online. And then when I'm in a country, I sometimes give in-person workshops, which is always beautiful because it connects me to the people. And I've given workshops in Germany, in Ethiopia, in South Africa, in different places of the world, and in Austria. It's always been beautiful. Like it's yeah, it's a great combination to have to be able to work. If I wanted to, I could work here in person. If I want to, I can work
Hmm.
online. And the fact that it gives me both options is just a blessing.
Well, and it's something that no matter where you go, people are always curious to learn more about themselves or they're seeking something for themselves. We talked about that earlier, right? And it seems like you have something to offer no matter where you go. If it's people, they're going to be interested.
Yes,
Yeah,
absolutely.
nice. Let's go to the fifth question. And again, you can expand more, share more, however much you would like to here. The fifth and final question is, Jennifer, what does getting off the comma look like for you?
Getting off it looks like I know who I am. I know what I'm doing. I know why I'm doing what I do. I love what I do. I love myself more. And getting off the comma just meant more fulfillment, satisfaction, more peace, and no
Mm,
regrets.
mm. There is so much more that we could explore here, obviously. I feel like you've kind of brought us through the arc of your story. Let's go ahead and bring this episode to a close as there are going to be people who want to connect with you, follow you, maybe reach out to you and talk with you, see what you're up to. Walk us through where can people find you? I'll be sure to put your information and your links in the show notes. Where can people connect with you?
So you can find me pretty much anywhere on YouTube, on Instagram, on Facebook, on TikTok. These are the places that I hang out most at. And then my website is mindyoursubconscious.com and giving you all types of resources for hypnosis and the subconscious, of course.
Nice. Be sure and check out those links in the show notes. And then the next thing that we do, kind of the last thing that we do in every episode, is a section I call acknowledgments because, you being here today and sharing your story with us is what this podcast is all about, is lifting up voices and letting people take inspiration from people like ourselves, everyday people, right? Your story wouldn't be complete if we didn't give you an opportunity to lift up others. And so, as you think about whether it's causes, organizations, other creators, or just people in your life who matter to you, it's your opportunity to give them a voice, boost them, lift them up. Who would you like to acknowledge today? And I'll be sure and reference them in the show notes as well.
I would like to acknowledge the person that told me why just Paris, why not the whole world? She likes her privacy, so I'm not going to even say her name, but she is the person that I want to acknowledge and that I want to thank because so many times in my life when I've been on a comma, she has brought me through it and she has brought me forward. And then I want to
Mm,
acknowledge my friend Sabrina, who has been my friend since I'm 10 years old. So that's a long time, and she's also always there.
nice. Nice. Well, Jennifer, thank you again for joining us today, sharing your story with us. And I've certainly taken a lot from it, and I know others will as well. Look forward to following your journey ahead. And just thank you again for being with us today.
Thank you so much for having me, Paul, and thank you so much for your podcast. It's very different than the usual podcast, and I really, really appreciate that. Great question.
Oh, thank you very much. Yeah, we're very intentional here. So that I very much appreciate that acknowledgement. So have a wonderful rest of your week.
Thank you.
What an honor it is for me to hear and share these powerful stories. I hope you feel the same way. Think about what you learned from this conversation. I encourage you to write it down in some form of journaling or reflection, because surprises can reveal themselves to you when you write your thoughts down. If you were moved by today's conversation, pass it along to someone you care about. And if you do discover something you'd like to unpack further, book a call with me and let's talk about it. My links are in the show notes. Be sure to like this episode and follow the podcast here on this platform and all social media at Off the Comma. Feel free to interact and comment. Thank you for listening to this episode of Off the Comma. As always, keep noticing and keep listening.